Hi there. In this lecture we see Nezhmetdinov playing against Boris Katalymov, 1959, candidates to the Masters tournament. So e4 for Nezhmetdinov. We see a French defense, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4, e5, the winner variation, c5, a3, bishop takes c3, b takes, queen c7, knight f3, knight e7, and now a4. This is Nezhmetdinov's using a kind of Fischer plan to get the bishop potentially on this more sensitive diagonal. Black has weakened dark squares. This is a bishop without a counterpart. We see b6, bishop b5 check, bishop d7, and now white castles. Bishop takes b5, a takes. Black plays now a5, kind of keeping things in a kind of safe and solid manner. And it is basically also a protected pass pawn there, potential for endgames. Now, if black had played c takes d4, c takes d4, queen c4, we can actually use some tricks, which maybe it is interesting to investigate. Bishop a3. There are some tricks here with the king not castled in the center. There's some danger points after c4 here, so losing b5, c4. If black plays here queen d7, bishop takes, king takes, queen d3, white has a small edge. If black dared to take on c4, then we can see we're kind of opening up things after bishop takes e7, getting that c-file pressure. We've got c-file authority here, so this would be enough compensation. Yeah, there's more than enough compensation. We can work actually on both sides of the board. Here's just one example. There's an incoming a pawn, but the king's in the center, so knight g6 check. Let's say black doesn't want to indulge these tactics. We can put more pressure on the black position, knight g6 check here, and actually focus on e6 as our target. So this ends up being a winning position for white. If d takes c4, taking on e7, this is also adequate compensation here. Knight takes h7 is worth it with the king in the center, then going back to e4, and white ends up with a significant advantage. For example, this would be a disaster for black. So black wants to keep things closed. It's understandable a5 rather than try and challenge potentially weak b5 pawn. Yeah, this is quite dangerous, this whole bishop a3 business. So we have d takes being played. c4 was also possible, maybe a slight improvement, so try and open up things against black. White ends up being better here. This is better for white. White can even go to provoke knight f5, and white ends up in a better way. These variations are quite good for white. Okay, so d takes though was played. B takes, c4, d takes, queen e2, c3, knight g5, knight d7, f4, knight d5, queen h5, knight f8, so protecting f7, knight e4, knight g6, knight d6 check, king f8, and this is a very strong position with the king on f8 with the rook. It looks like the f5 break is absolutely thematic. And it is strong. f5 is strong. It opens up the bishop, it would open up the rook as a target on f7. Black's gone really badly wrong in this opening. b6 was played by Nezhmetdinov, but f5 is simple and effective. So e takes, queen takes here. How is black actually defending? It's very difficult to defend this position with that f-file and other ideas. If knight takes e5, fine, f takes e6, queen takes d6, rook takes f7 check. This situation, there's a crushing blow here. This is a brilliancy behind the scenes, for sure. What do you think the crushing blow is for 100 points? Yeah, we can actually just play bishop h6 here. And black's had it after this. G takes, queen takes. Black's going to give up the queen. We can first play check, then we're on the knight on d5, then take the queen out and take. We're going to be winning. So yes, f5 does seem very simple, very logical, very strong, regardless of knight takes e5. This tactic of undermining the d6 knight is not working for black. These are just crushing variations black's going to be faced with, especially with this bishop h6. But anyway, b6 is also dangerous. It's understandable to try and take the queen away from f7 even more. Knight takes f7. Again, f5 is just simple and strong. You know, this situation, we can play queen e6 here and double check. Bishop takes f4, it's all over. So anyway, knight takes f7, king takes f5 now. Still strong for white. King g8 is played. If e takes, queen takes f5 check. Queen f7 is checkmate. If knight f6, e takes. We've opened up the king. It's check to us. Okay. We handle that, and we've just got a crushing position. We've got things like queen d7 check if queen takes f6. It's crushing. So anyway, rook. So after king g8, f takes g6. Queen c7 is tried. If h takes, queen takes. Here, let's take this example. Bishop g5. And, okay, check, we move our king. We're going to be better here. We might need to play some safety moves to get rid of x-rays and pins, you know, against rook takes h3 if that's pin. We're just significantly better here. We can carry on attacking pretty soon. But queen c7 was played. And there's a nice tactical shot here indeed. That's made use of. Can you see what it is? 400 points. It deals with black's outside pass pawn. That's a clue. Rook takes a5. Rook c8 is played in response. If rook takes a5, can you see how we can actually force a checkmate? There's a weakness of the last move here. This is special effects department. We can actually play g takes h7 check. Rook takes queen e8 is checkmate. Also in our special effects department, if queen takes a5, this position, g takes, is forcing black's response. Queen f7 check, queen f8 check, and we're mating. Yeah, so great special effects move. Rook takes a5. That is a brilliant tactic in its own right. Rook c8 is played, and now the rook actually switches over here. Rook a4 to threaten rook h4 to put more pressure on h7. Queen e7, rook h4, h6. Rook f7, queen e8, rook h3. Queen a4, rook h to f3. Queen takes c2, and now guess what Nezhmetdinov plays here? Does he worry about the bishop? Okay, not really. For 10 points, queen g4. There's implications now of rook f8 check and queen takes e6. Queen d1 check is tried. Let's have a look here. If queen takes c1 check, rook f1, queen e3 check, and let's say queen takes e5. With that pawn on g6, this is a remarkably powerful position after queen f3. We're threatening the devastating rook f8. And there's no real defensive resources here. Queen d6, we've got things like rook takes g7 check and queen f7 mating. And let's say knight f6. We have a crushing blow in this position. Can you see what it is? Yeah, queen b7. We're hitting c8. We're hitting g7. No defense. You know, we're going to take on c8 there. There's no defense. Is black going to give up the queen? We're going to move material up. Rook b8. Rook takes g7, queen f7 is checkmate. So queen d1 check is tried. King f2. We have queen d4 check. So here, if queen takes c1, we can run with rook f8 check. It's all pretty forcing. Queen takes e6 check. The special effects department is at work again. So black tries to get the queens off. Queen takes d4, c takes. And now guess what is winning here? Bishop a3 with a threat of rook f8 mating. So black is pretty desperate here. I mean, the rook's in prison on h8. Black tries knight f6. We just take that. We're threatening rook takes g7 checkmate. It ends the game. So say c2, rook takes g7 is checkmate. So here, okay, whilst c2 is very clear cut with rook takes g7 check, what if g takes f6? Actually, aren't we a bit concerned about this pawn? There's a way of actually crushing it here. Rook 3 takes f6, c2, and guess what white can play here for 10 points? Which will really put an end to black. I mean, in terms of checkmating, we don't have to just try and blockade the pawns. We can actually go for a checkmate here with bishop f8, reinforcing g7 as a killer common square, threatening rook g7 checkmate. If rook takes f8, yeah, just to put that on the board, c1 queening rook g7 is checkmate. So if rook takes f8, we take, king g7, we go back. And here, the pawn supports that rook on f7. Guess what we can play here? We're controlling all the escape squares with just that rook and the pawn on g6. We can play rook takes e6, not minding if black queens, because this is checkmate. So yes, a funny, crushing end to the game there. That would have been a logical outcome. An enjoyable game showing how, yeah, the French defence winner is a bit controversial, with white having quite a dangerous bishop, as we saw in many variations in this game. Okay, great stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much. All comments, questions, likes and subscribes, really appreciated. Thanks so much.